You're watching TelecomTV from SCWS World 2017 in London. And I'm joined now by Mansour Hanif, who is Director of the Converged Network Research Lab at BT. Mansour, thanks for joining us again on TelecomTV. When we look at implementing hyperdense networks, it's really not just a question of saturating an entire territory or country with small cells. There's more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah, of course, we need to offer the level of quality our customers expect. So it's not, as you say, you can't just throw out small cells out there. It needs to be managed in a proper way. But the problems faced with extension of the network to areas which are frankly not economically viable for anybody, but we need to cover to serve our customers there. That's a very different problem in terms of control and providing quality of service to what you mentioned as densification, which is more about adding capacity. So at the moment, in terms of densification, as you know, we've merged the Orange and T-Mobile networks a couple of years ago. That's pretty much done. That actually created a densification of the macro network. And we have well over 18,000 sites now, and we're adding in more sites to complete that coverage. And then we're adding in the small cells to extend that coverage beyond the macro sites into areas which are really tiny. But you're right, we need a service wrap to make sure that we can always answer our customers if they've got any issues with a macro cell or a small cell, even if they're in very remote areas. And that's why we're experimenting with new technologies so that we can actually make it easier for communities to get involved with the coverage, and we can be faster to fix and repair in case of issues. Intensification is a whole different issue where right now we don't see big problems on the capacity of the network in urban areas. But we know that in the future, as you know, customer expectations never stop to rise, we will if we don't put in a range of solutions, including small cells for densification. And that's where we believe it's really important that we have a completely single platform that we can manage the customer experience for our customers, whether they're consumer, such as EE, whether they're business for public or public sector, or whether they're from verticals. Each of those want a specific quality of service, and they don't really care if they're on a macro or small cell. And so we're very keen to have a single platform that can manage that customer experience across all of those technologies.
You've covered your radio strategy, but what consideration does BT place on its existing established network of fibre and VDSL-based technologies in this converged network?
Massive consideration. We're never going to lose the heritage of fibre, and also some of the copper technologies such as G.fast and VDSL, long-range VDSL in particular that we're looking at. So actually it's really exciting from my perspective to be sitting in the middle of that, where we're bringing those teams together. What's really fascinating is, you know, BT have got a long heritage of creating a lot of the fibre industry. When we talk about convergence, one of the most interesting things is some of the stuff we're looking at on the mobile side and on the copper side and on the fibre side. The underlying technologies are converging. So ways of reducing self-interference, ways of stretching the modulation schemes to reach longer, ways of putting in various types of multi-MIMO. For example, the Wi-Fi we're putting in 4x4 MIMO already available in our hubs. So there is absolutely no way we're going to forget about having the best of fibre. And I think actually it's fantastic for this country that we've got, you know, an operator like BT who actually sees itself as an aggregator of the best technologies for the wider industry. And we also serve obviously the wholesale market. So being able to push the fibre as far as people want it. We know there's a consultation going on now about how far to push it beyond the cabinet. We announced 2 million homes. We're looking at to see should we push that farther. All of those are things that we're very open to discuss. But the key thing there is having the right assets, the right people, the right mindset to want to experiment and innovate, and bringing the best of all the technologies together in a very coherent way, which is very exciting.
And is this all part of the process of a service provider to become a digital service provider?
It very much is, and I think, you know, digital isn't just in the IT space. At this forum you'll hear what a buzz there is about the fact that new solutions for multi-operator and for neutral host, for example, are going digital. So we're experimenting. What does digital mean for an operator? I mean, there's obviously the IT space, and what I talked about is a flexible platform for managing the operations in a digital way, which means flexible, programmable, but also digital power. For example, when we experimented with our disaster recovery solution based on a drone and a balloon, which is up for an award tonight, fingers crossed, the key thing there was the digital power. So VoltServer, our partner, because the problem is, you know, when you're out in the field, things can happen. Now, if something happens and you've got a live power cable with a tether to a drone, you can't have a live power cable lying there, for anybody to kill themselves with. So what VoltServer did was digitalize the power. So they send the power as a pulse, and if they don't receive an acknowledgement, it stops. And we've seen, some of the engineers in the VT Fix side actually testing it out with a penknife. Luckily, it worked, so they're still alive. But so digital on the power. Today, we've got solutions about digital on the front hole and the back hole, so that you can actually mix things in a much more efficient way, removing all the different bits and pieces that we still got left in the analog space. And vRAN is a big part of that as well.
So tell me more about your drone work and also what you're doing with the Lime Hackathon.
Yeah, so for the drone is actually on display here with our partner UView, which is a British company not far from Ipswich, where we are based as well, at BT Labs. And we have a Nokia picocell, it weighs 2.3 kilos. On the drone, you can see it here. It's up for one of the awards tonight. That's for a very localized coverage. We've got a helikite-based solution, which is more stable in high winds, believe it or not. And that can fly for up to a month in certain conditions. And the main use case for that was disaster recovery, because ultra-reliability is absolutely key. People want higher speeds, more capacity, but they also want better coverage, and they want it to be ultra-reliable. So, for example, when we had the flooding a couple of years back in New York, and the whole village was out, it might take us several months to rebuild all those base stations. With this solution, we can roll in very quickly, set up a temporary coverage solution that could even be multi-operator in the future, and we can actually provide the coverage very quickly to people who need it when they need it, which is very important for us. That was the initial scope. That's now been demoed. It's been shown. It's doable. We're developing that into several solutions which we can deploy later this year. But we've also been asked by a lot of people around the industry to develop that into a commercial solution for businesses, for industrial purposes, and potentially, if we can also show that it can go beyond line of sight using the 4G network to control it and it's safe, we could use it to actually go without the tether as well to certain solutions. So we're working on a lot of that. A lot of that will be on display at Innovation Week in BT Labs in Industrial Park in June. We'll be showing some of those technologies. And you mentioned the Lime Hackathon. So we mentioned about 5G being cloud native or even container native, because it needs to be able to be changed very, very quickly and move very, very quickly. So as part of that, what's really clear is that the future of networks is highly programmable networks, and that's across fixed and mobile. So we're working on building slices that can cover fixed and mobile, the scope being to be able to offer a coherent quality of service across fixed and mobile. Now, if you look at the game changers of the future in terms of transformation, flexible, programmable, software-based networks with separation of hardware and software is a big challenge, because we don't have the right skills today to have large teams able to manage the interface between software, programming, and networks. So with the Lime Hackathon, we did a crowdsource last year. I spoke about it on TelecomTV a couple of years ago. And we offered development kits that are small development kits. You can buy off a crowdsourcing platform quite cheap, and you can then plug them into a normal laptop, and it becomes a development kit for a base station. And it can be for 3G, 4G, NB-IoT, any type of technology you want. So 3,000 companies actually sourced that development kit from the crowdsourced platform. 3,000 companies is a lot. Those 3,000 companies have now had their kits delivered. And we're also funding 100 from the EE side. We're funding 100 kits to the biggest universities in the UK. And we're having a competition over the next 3 months to give use cases that are important for our customers today, but also to benchmark the future of this ecosystem today, so that we know how far are we away from having this new way of working, which is very rapid innovation in the same way as the web-scale companies. It's the first time we're having a large-scale benchmark of that. It's kicking off now. It's on display at our stand as well. And we hope that through this we can have a knock-on effect where the universities work with industry to develop that new generation of program software-based network engineers that we so badly need. And I'm hoping that can give the UK an extra sprint in this race towards the future networks.
Mansour, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome, Robert.